Hey, I'm Stephen Glosser.
And I'm Megan Pikert.
Welcome to the Going Somewhere podcast,
A podcast for anyone who finds themselves in the ambiguous adventure of young adulthood.
a season that's marked by uncertainty, change, love, heartbreak, and a whole lot of big decisions.
Join us for some real conversations as we dig into what it looks like to be a follower of Jesus in this beautiful yet complicated season of life.
We're so glad you're here, and we'd love to have you join our little Going Somewhere podcast community. Follow us on Instagram at goingsomewhere.podcast and join the conversation.
We're all going somewhere. We might as well go there together.
Thanks for listening. Let's jump into today's episode. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to this very special episode of the Going Somewhere podcast. It's the last episode of 2024. What's up, Megan? How are you doing?
I'm good. How's it going?
I am doing great. How was your Christmas?
It was good. It was loud. It was full of people, just the way we like it,
Yes.
being with family. So it was really fun.
That's awesome. What was like the highlight?
Ooh, the highlight. Okay, on our last episode, we talked about playing Hallmark movie bingo, and
Yes.
we did it. So we played bingo
Nice.
with a Hallmark movie. It was so fun, actually, and we were all in tears laughing at everyone's guesses. And
Did you guys like download a card, or did you guys write in your card?
we wrote it in.
Wrote in? Okay.
Yes, we all took like 5 minutes, and you wrote in as many as you could. And then we were actually 30 minutes late into the Hallmark movie starting. So we also said, for sure, like half of our squares were already guessed,
Yeah.
we were just based off the storyline and the plot line, but it was so fun. And it was just
That's
hilarious to I remember my brother Matt yelling like, they went for a walk outside. And it was just so funny. So yeah. But what was the best part of your Christmas?
I feel like there's a lot of good parts. We did some of our fun games. My nephew, who's 7, is big into like adult games now, like Ticket to Ride and Phase 10. And so because he was into it, our kids wanted to be around him. Mm-hmm. And so we got to do like more adult things this year than we have in the last few years. And so it's super fun just to like play games with my parents, with my brother. The last few years has just kind of been wrangling children or playing Old Maid. So we did that too, but we also got some of that. But it was awesome. We had a great little break, and now we're excited to be back into the swing of things finally. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about just the new year and looking back on this past year. This is something that I love doing every year. We're just going to kind of look back at some fun things, books, podcasts, some things that shaped us over the year, some lessons we've learned, hopefully to inspire you as you're listening to kind of think back through this past year and go, yeah, what were some of the takeaways? What were some of the things that impacted my life? And then kind of talk about, all right, now the new year starts. So what does that mean for you? Is New Year like resolutions a thing for you, or is that not a big deal?
I feel like they are a thing, but as I've maybe gotten older, I make them more like realistic than I do of like setting some crazy goal that's like seems impossible. I remember 2024, one of my New Year's resolutions was to cook something new once a week. I was like, absolutely not. I don't think I did that. I think I did it once a month, maybe,
Yeah.
So I think I'm just learning to make things that are actually implementable into my life, for New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of the same. I used to be 30 New Year's resolutions. I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week. And then by like January 3rd, I'm just,
January 3rd.
I'm done.
3 days.
And so I've kind of had to revamp. And so at the end, we'll kind of talk about that. And one of the big things that I've done in my life is the best way for me to start a new year is how I end the year previous. And part of that's by reflecting and looking back at the previous year, because it shows me kind of where I've been. And honestly, I've just been doing this over the last few days, my own year-end reflection. And one of the craziest things is as I've been going through like the highlights, and I went through literally my entire year's worth of photos in my phone. I just scrolled through just to like jog my memory about, what I did, like actually, where did we go? What did we do? And I was just filled with like a ton of gratitude. And, because there's hard things in a year that kind of stick with you, or you think about those, but then you go through all these things. You're like, oh yeah, we did do that. And our kids had these milestones, and Summit is in preschool and Kinsley's in kindergarten, and we got to spend time at the lake, and I spoke at this camp, and I emceed my friend's nonprofit fundraiser. And as I was looking at all those pictures, it was like, man, this has been a great year, and God has been very faithful. And so I think there's a lot of benefit to looking back, and it helps me now as I'm kind of looking ahead and I am setting some goals. I am kind of looking at what's coming around the corner. I feel like my perspective is one of gratitude, not of like ambition and I need to accomplish something to feel something or to be somebody. It's really a place of like, man, I'm excited for what God has in store for this year. And so I feel like that's how I've been starting to view it. And so I hope other people can do that too. That is why I created the guide. We'll refer to that at the end. But let's jump in with some fun topics. And so the first topic we're going to cover are books. What are like your top 3 books from this year? Should we like alternate, go back and forth a little bit?
Okay, yeah.
All right.
Let's do that.
All right, what was your number 1, or should we count down? What was your number 3 book?
Oh, well, that makes it feel rough. Okay, my number 3 book for 2024 was I read The Awe of God with a group of friends in the spring this year. It was so good. I highly, highly, highly recommend. But that book is all about like standing in awe of God, that God he's a friend and he's a mentor and he's kind and he's compassionate. You know, we get all like the lovey-dovey side of God a lot. But there is also a characteristic of God that makes us stand in awe of him, that he is absolutely holy. And yeah, it just really, I think, changed the way that I viewed God. It didn't make him feel unapproachable to me. It just made me very much aware of like the magnitude of getting to have a relationship with him and what that actually means for me, that I can be in the presence of God. Like, that's crazy. So
that's cool. Is that really John Bevere?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Very cool. I have not read that one, but I know you described it to me earlier, and it's one of those that's like, oh, because he wrote the fear of God and the awe of God and these perspectives of God. And I know something that Pastor Tony shared with us when he was here with our NVLC program was how we view God is oftentimes how we view ourselves, and it impacts the way that we view ourselves. And so I got to read that one. That sounds great. Yeah. My number 3 book is a book called How to Stay Married. And so this one is like my off the wall top 3. I think it's written so well. It is not PG. He is very honest in his communication. He is a guy who loves Jesus, but went through a really bad marital situation. His wife cheated on him repeatedly, but they found reconciliation. And God's done some healing work in their lives and in their marriage. And so the book is very detailed of like what went into all of that and the ups and the downs of that, the lying, the all of that stuff. And it, as a pastor, it was something that really gripped me of like, man, this is so relatable to conversations that I've had. And the little seeds that he mentioned throughout their marriage were the little seeds that sprung into something bad. It wasn't the thing that was bad itself. And so actually it's been something I've used in my own counseling, but also Taylor and I just had these awesome conversations that came out of it. Like, let's not ever let anything that could be a small thing grow. And so it just kind of sparked honest conversation for us too. But a little bit off the wall, but Harrison Scott Key is one of the most invigorating authors to me. He's so funny and very honest and authentic. And I like that about an author. So that's my number 3. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Don't Give the Enemy a Seat at Your Table by Louis Giglio.
Okay.
So yeah, I had never read it. I'd never read anything by Louis Giglio, but I've heard of him, obviously, as I'm sure many have. But this book dives into, in Psalm 23, there's a line that says, you prepared a seat for me. You prepared a table for me in the presence of my enemies. And he just breaks down, like, what does that mean? Like, you have a table, but in the presence of your enemies, like, why would he could make a table anywhere for you, you know? And so what I really took away from that book was that you get to choose who sits at your table, that you can choose whether God sits at your table with you. Like, God's going to prepare the table no matter what, but you get to choose who's in attendance for that. And so he dives into what that means, or what that looks like if you do allow the enemy to sit at your table. You know, what is that going to create? And it just, was really relatable, I think, in a lot of ways, but then also very practical of, okay, why should we not do that? Or how do we get him out of our table? How do we maintain being okay being in the presence of the enemy, but not letting him take a seat in your life? So
Cool.
it's good.
That's awesome.
What is your number 2?
My number 2 is a book called Slow Productivity by Cal Newport. I know you've read that book and it's not in your top 3. And so, but Slow Productivity is really a look at like how effective people are. Like there's famous people that have accomplished a ton, whether it's writing books or producing plays. But when you look in and you zoom in, they were doing just that one thing or a couple things really intensely for a long period of time. The things like whether it's the famous musicals, Lin-Manuel or whatever his name is, like they're things that don't just formulate over 3 months. Somebody gives a deadline. It's something that was birthed 15 years prior and he'd worked on for 5 years straight, and nothing else really of significance came out in that period of time. And so really it's just a new way to kind of view productivity. Productivity is not about getting a bunch of stuff done fast. It's about getting the right things done and prioritizing the right things. So it's been really helpful for me in work. And just my view of like, again, Jesus, it's a walk with Jesus, not a run with Jesus. And I've found a lot of things in faith are slow cooked, not microwaved. And so it's also helped me in my faith journey as well. But I think we'll say our number ones on the count of 3. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
1, 2, 3.
Practicing the way.
Okay. So I almost forgot what it was called.
That would actually really stress me out.
I know. Sorry about that. But Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer. We both put that as our number 1. Why is it your number 1? Like of all the books you read this year, why is that one the one that jumps out at you?
Ooh, I think it jumps out at me. One, I love John Mark Comer. I would read pretty much anything he's ever written. But I feel like Practicing the Way really broke down a lot of previous books he's written and made it just practical. We read Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and that can seem like I have to change my entire life right now. But Practicing the Way, I think, kind of just, in a lack of better word, like dumbed it down of this is why we do this. And one thing that it mentions in the book is that disciple, the word, is a noun, not a verb. And so a lot of times we treat it like a verb. It's an action. But when it in reality, it's actually a noun, which means that it's who you are. It's a part of you. It's a title that you give yourself, that I am a disciple. I'm not just discipling people, but it's something that is just a part of my life. And that was really formative for me and just like really changed the way that I viewed that of it's not just something that I do, but it's just the way that I live. It's just who I am. So
cool.
Why was it your favorite book?
I feel, again, John Mark Comer, big fan of his writing. And this one is kind of a culmination of some of the other books. And it's really his church went through a several year journey of kind of implementing the things that are in this book. And so he kind of now is writing it for other people and other churches to implement it not only into their lives, but into their like communities. And I just love how it brings simplicity to some complex things and the history of a disciple. Like disciple is not new language used for the followers of Jesus. It was a very common thing. It meant more like apprentice, somebody who, worked under somebody who watched their way of life. And so to be a disciple of somebody else meant to mock their way of life, or to not mock it, but mimic their way of life and to pursue their way of life. And so to follow somebody like that meant that you were going to submit your life to theirs and to their way of life. And so it does change it. It makes you look at, well, okay, then really to be a disciple means to be with Jesus, to be like Jesus, and to do what Jesus did. And so I love that book. I've implemented it in a lot of different teaching and a lot of things that we're trying to do at the church. And so it's definitely been a marking book. I was going through this last night and I was like, I could have promised that book was written 3 years ago because I've read it, I think, twice, and I've taught it. And so it's really cool. I love that book. If you haven't read it, you should. I know you have, but the listener. I'm curious if you're listening, what's a book that you read that was really impactful or shaping? You can either share it on Instagram. We're going to put some polls out of just some of the books that you read. I'm anxious to hear what people read this year. So we'd love to hear some of those books from you. But let's talk about, we're going from our eyes to our ears now. So what are some podcasts that have impacted you? I like podcasts because I drive a lot, and it's one of the things that I do while I'm driving. And I enjoy podcasts of like a variety of different genres, kind of. But I'm curious of what your top ones are. So, what were some of the podcasts that were in your ears the most this year, Megan?
Well, before I was a co-host, I was a Going Somewhere podcast fan always,
Nice.
which I still listen to them too, but that was probably like my top one. But I also listen to the Handlebar podcast, which is from the Upper Room. So their entire premise is they set a timer, they get a question that was submitted on social media, and then they set a timer for, I think it's like 5 minutes. And when the 5 minute timer is up, they all have to go around and give their one key takeaway from the topic and from the question. So how can you live in purity might be the question, and then they'll all go around and give like their one takeaway for, okay, how best can you do this? And so it's really practical. It's short. They're like 15-minute episodes. But then you always leave with some sort of like action step or some sort of thing that you can implement into your life. So I really like that one.
Cool. I know you've told me about that, and I love the practicality of that. Just the like giving people handlebars to grip on to walk away with, and so that's awesome. Feel like for me, my podcasts haven't changed a ton over the last couple of years, so I'll share a couple right now, and then I'll share a new one. But Dadville is one that I love. It's gosh, why am I blanking? Dave Barnes and John McLaughlin. They're both musicians, but they're hilarious, and it's like the prereqs for being on their podcast is to be a dad or like a mom, but the conversations are of spiritual nature. They get to fatherhood, but it's usually just like their stories too, and they're really entertaining and really fun. And then another one is The Writing Room by Bob Goff, and I can't remember who he co-hosts that one with, but that one's just really ins and outs of writing. They interview different authors, and so as I've been writing more, it's been really cool. There's some that talk about like the book like publishing side, and then some are like the creative side and the actual how do you get ideas and how do you take notes so that you can use them someday in something that you write. And so that one's been really practical and a good listen as well. Do you have any other ones?
Yeah, my other one is also Bob Goff, but it's his Dream Big with Bob Goff and
Nice.
Friends.
Yeah.
And so clearly Bob Goff is doing a lot of podcasts, but he does the Dream Big podcast where he just interviews people, which seems really simple, but the people that he has on there are all across the board. You know, he's got authors, speakers, but also I just listened to one that he interviewed a young couple that is trying to hit, I think, every country in the world.
Oh yeah, I listened to that one.
Yeah. So it was super interesting, but they're like not even 30 and they're almost done, and they like just put all of their life savings into it and were newly married when they embarked on it. So it's just like super interesting. He has so many people and so many stories on there that you get to hear, and yeah, it's just always been really interesting. You just get to hear a perspective into so many people's lives and the adventures that they've taken and all of that.
Cool. Yeah, I know. I've definitely enjoyed that one. That was how I actually found The Writing Room, was because he was talking about his new podcast, and so that's been kind of cool. But the other one for me that I found this year was one called How Leaders Lead by a guy named David Novak, who was I'm gonna blank on which giant restaurant, or like he was the CEO of Yum Brands, which was like KFC and a few other giant places. And he has just interviews with different leaders, and it's kind of similar. It's just really interesting to hear their stories. I used to find myself going in like the places that I had heard of. So there's a place in New Jersey called Wawa, and it's like this grocery store on steroids. They were known first for their hoagies, and then they started selling gas to supplement. And so it's like a sandwich shop all in one. But it's so good. And it was so cool to hear like the founding story or like the leadership story of the new CEO of how he leads. And so that's been really cool. And then also I've just started to like play from the top down, and I've heard the stories of other people. And there's been a lot of people that I'm like, they sound a lot like me leading in a similar context, or and how, what can I pull from them or glean from them? And I've never heard of them, but now I'm learning from them. And so that's been kind of a fun way to be introduced to new voices and new places that I'm like, oh, I've never thought of that. I've never heard of that thing or that person. So that's been kind of fun. And that's one of the things I love about podcasts is like you learn new stories, new people, new perspectives, and you can kind of pull things from it. Hey, everybody, we want to tell you about something really exciting happening here in Fargo, North Dakota. We've got Rhythm Conference 2025 coming up February 7th and 8th. And this is a 2-day gathering that is totally designed for you, young adults. This is an opportunity for you to make some friends, to grow in your relationship with God, and really be stretched as we make a difference in this world.
Yeah, we are so excited for all of us to be able to gather together in community, spend time with Jesus, and with our after parties, breakouts, guest speaker, Pastor Kirk Graham from River Valley Church. It's going to be an awesome time.
Yeah, we'd love to have you join us. We've got a seat saved for you. All you got to do is go to rhythmconf.com to reserve your seat, to register today. Price is only $50 for the whole weekend. You get everything. You get a meal. It's going to be an awesome time. But the price goes up December 31st, so get your tickets while they're hot. We'll see you at RhythmConf 2025. What is something or a couple things that you are most proud of from 2024?
Oh, there's just so much. I think just answering this question, I think that one thing has been super exciting that plays into a lot of what I'm proud of is I've just tried a lot of new things this year. Whether that's hobbies or my new job that I started this summer. And there's just been a lot of new things. I went to Alaska for the first time. But with that, I've also am super proud of just my job is events director here at the church, and part of that is getting to be a part of incredible things that happen. And so Rhythm Conference last year, and then Team Conference this past fall, which we host for all of our servant leaders at our church. It's just a time to celebrate and honor them, and just getting to be a part of stories and getting to create space for the Holy Spirit to move is such an honor. And I'm just really proud that I even get to be a part of that, and that I'm slowly getting better at my job as we go, and which I think just everyone be encouraged by that. You get better at your job as you keep doing it, as you keep trying new things and figuring out your groove and your giftings too. So it's been a really fun year. A lot of new things though this year, which is exciting and scary.
Yeah. Well, you should be proud. I've gotten to be a part of a lot of those things, and you've done a great job. So way to go. And even podcast hosting, that's a new thing for you too. Mm-hmm. And you're doing a great job. So way to go.
Thank you. Yeah. What are you proud of this year?
I feel like going through kind of my year-end reflection stuff over the last week or so has been really cool, because one of the things that I do is I go through my photo album from the year prior. And so I was able to like remind myself of some of the cool things that I did and got to be a part of. And so a couple, one that jumps out is just the book, my progress on my book that I've been writing. It's been something that's been cooking for 7 years. And over the last year or so, it's been a little bit more on the front burner, and just at the point where I sent the proposal off, and I'm like 90% done with the manuscript, depending on what happens with any bites from publishing or anything. But I'm super proud of that. Like, I'm proud of the book itself, but I'm also proud of the perseverance it's taken to get to this point. It's not an easy task at all. It's a painful task, actually. And so that's been really fun. Another one is launching NVLC, or kind of taking the next steps. And I feel like we're doing something with the non-traditional track, which is really for people that aren't necessarily like, they don't have time to commit to a full year or anything like that. So it's once a month, and then some studies on the side
for ministry training.
And it's just been really cool. I don't see it in other places. And so to be a part of something that's, I feel, very unique, and we've experienced like the extreme benefits and fun of it. So I feel like that's another one. And then a couple things that have just jumped up were, one kind of silly one was, I didn't realize how many like stand-up comedy shows that I went to this past year. We went to probably like 4 different comedy shows here in the cities. And that's something that I've always struggled to like do things that I really enjoy. So I'll try to go to basketball games or but that's something that I really enjoy, and we made space and time for it. And so to see all the pictures from those things was kind of fun. And then got to MC a couple different events, and I'm really proud of that. I one in particular was my friend Ashley's nonprofit Dear NICU Mama, and she asked me to MC it and just to come alongside her dream, um, and like the thing that she's been working so hard on. And I've seen it from afar, but to kind of get to be a part of that night made me really proud of her, but also just made me really proud to know that I get to use my giftings to serve the kingdom in unique ways and to serve friends' visions and dreams. Like I was proud of that. Like there's times where it's like, yeah, I love my writing and I love the things that I'm doing and all that, but to come alongside somebody else in theirs and be like, how can I support them using my gifts is something that made me really excited and happy. So I was pumped about that.
That's awesome.
What is this is just a I'm just going to give this one a you question today. But what, as our resident young adult, I am now an old adult or a middle adult at very least. What is something that's been a unique challenge as a young adult this year for you?
Yeah, I feel like we hear it all the time, but with young adults, there's just so much transition. And so I think for me this year, the hardest or like the biggest challenge was finding a sustainable rhythm that's constantly changing. So whether that's working 2 jobs and then coming on staff at a church and then living alone to living with roommates or whatever, like there was just right when you get your feet under you, like something else changes. And that was just really hard to navigate of how do I maintain community and a job and working 40 hours and or more than that. And it's just been kind of challenging to constantly feel like you're having to readjust. And so yeah, just reflecting on that over the 2024 was good to see of okay, what are my non-negotiables now going into 2025? Because I think with all the transitions, I erred on the side of giving myself a ton of grace, which was good. But now I think in 2025, I want to set what are my non-negotiables that I want to not be shaky when I go through a transition and maintain the rhythm as I go through, trying new things or different shifts in whatever happens. So
cool. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's probably a lot of people listening that can relate to that. And I think that obviously we've done books and podcasts and things we're proud of, but I think to look back at the challenges is one of the most beneficial things that we can do, because when we look back at the hard things, the difficult things, one, we see that we got through that or that there's been progress made, or it comes into our awareness of like, yeah, this is something that I'm carrying over. Sadly, December 31st does not expire all bad things in a year. Like it's not like, oh, fresh start. You bring things with you. And so to kind of pause and reflect on what are the challenges, how have I gotten through them, but also what do I need to do? Like how can I bring this thing to the Lord? How can I include my community in helping me navigate this? And so I think that's just a big thing that sometimes we don't want to do it. It's kind of like we, think that there's a monster in the closet, but we'll just leave the closet door shut so it doesn't come out when it obviously, that's a bad example, but you get what I mean. You understand.
yeah.
I feel like along with that though, that leads to just lessons that we've learned, so we go through challenges and I really don't believe that challenges are bad. Like I think challenges produce good. And even when you look at the Bible, when we go through bad things, like there's good things that come out of it. And the Bible says, consider it pure joy when you face trials, and it adds to your perseverance and all those things in our life. And so I wanted to kind of go through a few of the lessons that we've learned. We don't have to like go super deep in depth on these, but just, I like to give almost as if I am going to give a TED talk, or I'm going to give like a curriculum of like, hey, this is based on what I learned this year. I'm going to teach you this. So what are some of the lessons that you would teach somebody this year?
Yeah, the first one, the biggest lesson probably I learned this year was pruning is necessary, that it won't just happen, but it needs to happen. And I think that's important. But with that, perfection is not the goal in your life. And so, not just pruning or changing your life to be perfect or to please God or whatever, but to really just recognize that it's necessary and that you'll get through it and you'll be healthier on the other side of it too. That's my first one.
Okay. That's good. What's your second one?
My second is to manage and then remanage your expectations. That has been a huge lesson this year.
The good old remanage.
Yes, I hate remanaging expectations, but it's so necessary. Whoa. And so important, I think, to you can go in with expectations for how you think a conversation is going to go or for your job or whatever you think it is, but then just remembering that you're also still human and you still have relationships with humans that you need to remanage, and you need to maybe reopen a conversation that you thought was done and just have expectation conversations again. So that's been huge for me. And then I'll just jump into my last lesson kind of for 2024 was you will have to fight for your spiritual health, but it's worth it. And I think for a long time I treated it as it's just something that I choose to do, and I'm disciplined in it, so that's good. But this year in 2024, I feel like was definitely a year where I had to fight for it, and it became like a spiritual battle to pursue the Lord and to pursue my quiet time. But that fight's worth it, even though it's hard and it's exhausting, and you're like, come on, why isn't this easy? Why don't I just want to do it every day? But recognizing that doing it even when you don't want to do it, it's going to be so worth it. And I just had a friend, she said the line that, what did she say? Discipline produced desire for her. And I was like, yes, that is actually so good.
That's good.
And so, yeah, I think that's what I learned as well, that just being disciplined in it does produce the desire that you want anyway. So
cool. I love it.
Thank you. What is the lessons that you learned in 2024?
Yeah, I feel so. I just went through this exercise and like yesterday or the day before, and really wrote down like 14. So I'm not going to do that. But I love this part of it because it kind of forces you to go, okay, based on what I went through, now what did I learn? And so a couple of them, one of them is to find ways to add value to others. I know that sounds common sense, but the lesson is sometimes you don't have the opportunities that you desire or whatever the case may be. But there's always ways to add value to people. So whether you have, the opportunity that you thought you did or you don't, like there's still opportunities to add value to people, whether that's roommates or in my case, my family or the people that I'm around. There's always ways to add value. And so same with things like social media. It's been fun to kind of try new things. I feel like this last year was just a fun, like, play box for me or sandbox for me of just like, I'm just going to do stuff and see what happens. But the core value through it all was I want to add value, whether that's through something that's teaching or content or through demonstrating in our family fun and some of the values that we hold tightly to in our family, intentionality and all that. So that's been awesome. Another lesson is to make room for people. I keep relearning this one. I think as we get older and as young adults, especially, we get our crew, we get our tight-knit group, and we establish those friendships, and it's hard to make friends. And so we sometimes just kind of close in and we go, okay, I've got my people. But I've just learned to make room for people, and the Holy Spirit will always plug them in. But we can't always receive people if we're not looking for them. We can't always receive people and we don't see the needs that people have if we are only thinking about our needs. And so even in busy seasons, even in times where it's like, I do feel a little stretched thin and I need to work on relationships, but God's put some people in our path over the last year that just remind us time and time again, like some of our core friends over the last year would not be in our life if we would have said no to making room. Another one is spiritual hunger is contagious. I've just been around people that are hungry for God this year, and it's made me way more hungry for God. That's it. And another one is to embrace the mess at home and in people. At home, we just have realized, like, our house is messy at times. Kids' stuff is all over the place. Dirty fingers rub against the wall. But I think what we've just realized is that, I'm not talking like just letting your house go to garbage, but it's it indicates like a fun house and a house where our kids feel safe. And so we're teaching them manners, we're teaching them how to clean their hands after dinner and stuff. But at the same time, that's not our core value. Like our core value in our family is fun and laughter and joy. And so we are going to prioritize that. If that means the dance party at the dinner table, it happens. If that means we buy pie face for Kinsley for Christmas because she loves pranking people, we're going to do that. We're not going to worry about, I mean, the old saying, don't cry over spilled milk is so funny. I remember Summit spilling milk and I got upset with him one time. I was like, literally, this is what it's about. And so just realizing like those messes are just evidence that our children are there. And I love that. But same with people, it's the same with people, is that the messes are evidence that there's somebody there, that there's a reason to love that person. There's a reason to care about that person. And so embracing the messes in friendships or relationships or people that come along your path when it's like not convenient, I've just learned to embrace that and to lean into that just like I do at home, to not shut it down or to remove myself from it, but to welcome it and deal with it as it comes. We go through a lot of paper towels at our house.
I've been over at your house many times when milk has been spilled.
Yeah. It's kind of like the normal. If something doesn't get spilled, it's kind of like, whoa, is everybody okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everyone gets a sticker.
Yeah,
Good
exactly.
job.
Exactly. So that's some of our lessons. The last couple things we want to go through, these are just kind of our last two. They'll be quick too, but what's something that you're excited for in 2025? So as we kind of turn the page now, I think anticipation is one of the biggest things just in our everyday life. Like when you think of the next ginormous thing, we always look forward to those things. As we get closer to graduation, our minds go to that place or wherever the story is. But I've learned that when you have things in shorter term that you're looking forward to, it helps you stay in that same perspective, And so what are some things that you're looking forward to this year?
Yeah, the first one that I'm looking forward to is Rhythm Conference. I'm so excited. Yeah. It's going to be so fun. So that's in February for our young adults here in the Fargo-Moorhead area. But
get your tickets, rhythmconf.com.
Get your tickets. Prices go up at midnight tonight, actually. Yeah. So today's your chance. So yes, that's Rhythm Conference. Super excited about that. Something else I'm excited for is I will be getting credentialed, hopefully.
Yeah. Pastor Megan.
Yes, that's super exciting. I've spent 2024 doing all of my classes and coursework and everything. So now I just have my interview and my final exam. And then hopefully, if that goes well, I'll get credentialed. So I'm super excited about amazing. That. And then one other thing I'm excited about is, so I reflected on 2024 and realized that my weekends were just packed all the time. Yeah. Every weekend. It was so bad. I would go months and months with just plans all the time. And so something I'm implementing, hopefully, in this next year is one guard weekend a month. So that's just I'm not going to make any plans on that. Doesn't mean that I can't make plans, but it's an intentional weekend that I'm going to try and stay home. I'm going to stay at least in the Fargo area. Just get to spend that time really doing things that fill me instead of when I go home, I love seeing my family, but it's a 6-hour time in the car. And so that's a little bit difficult. So I'm embracing one weekend a month to do whatever I want.
I love that you're anticipating a rhythm, because I think that's like very translatable to anybody that's listening, because we oftentimes think about events, but to look forward to a new rhythm and the benefits of that is something that can really ground you as well. So that's cool. Mm-hmm. Way to go.
Yeah. And then the last thing, I guess, that I'm anticipating or excited for is this is kind of my first year staying in the same place for an extended period of time. So in college or living in Indiana, and job changes and just everything was always changing on like a yearly cycle. And I feel like this is the first year that I'm around the same community I was around last year, and I don't have to try and make new friends as hard as I did last year. And so just kind of getting to be more rooted this year than I ever have been able to in the past. I'm very excited about that, of just getting to lean further into the relationships I've already been forming over the last year or so now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's exciting. So what are you anticipating for this next year?
There's a couple things. One is book. Don't know what exactly will come of that, but hope and the prayer is that it's either published in the next several months or there's a plan for that that's in place. And so, and the side quests that come with that, I just think there's just things that I'm really excited about that I've had dreams of and felt like God's laid on my heart for many, many years. And I just feel like there's some things that are like, yes, let's do it. And so super excited about that. Also, Taylor and I have our 10-year anniversary trip in May. We are going to the Dominican Republic.
Let's go.
So we have not done like a Taylor, myself, long trip. We've done stuff away. We've done work stuff or like whatever. We have some friends that haven't been away from their kids at all in like their 6 years. And that's insane to us. Not that they're insane, but we love the fact that we have rhythms of, you know, a night or two away. But this is like on a beach at a resort for a long period of time, and we have not done that before. So that is something we've been saving for like 2 years for this too. So it's something that we've been looking forward to, and now it's getting really close. Another one is Rhythm Conf too. I look forward to it every year, and I'm really excited about what's going to come this year, February 7th and 8th. It's going to be awesome. What's a word or a phrase or a theme for this next year for you? This is one of the things that I found to be really helpful. I've heard of the word of the year, and a lot of people will do that. Some people don't like it because they feel like it boxes them in. I think in more of a terms of like, what is it that I feel like the Holy Spirit is leaning me towards right now? What's a word or a phrase or a theme that just comes to mind when I think about this coming year and how God's leading me? So I don't think people should emphasize it, but just I think sometimes you just take a moment and you're like, what is it that I'm looking forward to? What is it that this year feels like? And it's like, oh, that sounds like a great word. So what's your word or theme?
My word or theme for 2025 is to draw near. And this really came from a place of every time I'd pray about it, I'm going to blank on the reference, but it's the scripture of where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, which...
Good old Matthew.
Yes.
I don't remember exactly.
Yeah. But that oftentimes is like referred to as money, but I think I was just thinking time and time again, like that is just so true. Like where my treasure is, there my heart is, whatever I'm treasuring. And so I really want this next year to be what I'm treasuring is the Lord, is spending time with him. Like that is what I am like protecting and guarding constantly in my life. And so I'm super excited to see how this plays out. And also something I love about just having a word or a theme is that I recall it throughout the year, that I'm reminded of what did I want this year to look like? Okay, this was kind of my baseline. Am I operating in that? And so I think a word or theme for me has always just help me achieve whatever it is that I'm wanting this year or wanting to get out of this year. And so I'm excited to, just get to press in to see what that looks like. And just get to draw near to people, draw near to the Lord and in all areas of my life. So I'm excited for it. What is your word or theme?
Cool. No, that's awesome. Before I share this year's, you just mentioned that it helps you it stays on the front of your mind. And last year for me, I did a variety of words, but it was behold and be bold. And for me, it was like, I wanted to, one, behold God, like to keep him in my sights, but also my family. And like the main thing, like I wanted to behold the main things in my life. And then to be bold, I really felt like in this past year was one where I did some things that I hadn't done before and just took some risks and did some things in a new way that I wasn't sure how it would be received or whatever the case was. And it was really fun to do that. And I just really felt like this year taught me a lot about just like God is always going before us and that he's always with us and that he's always leading us. And that oftentimes does require boldness, and the Holy Spirit gives us boldness to do all the things that he asks us to do. And so that leads to this year's word, which is adventure. And so adventure is not a new word to my vocabulary. It's part of the title of the book that I have been writing. But this year, especially as I was thinking about this, and I pray through this too, that word just kept coming to mind. One, the book is culminating, but also just on the everyday side of things and just the big things that I feel really called to. I think it's going to be an adventure of a year. And I also, one of the things that I love is I think following Jesus is the greatest adventure. That when you truly follow him and trust him, and he just leads you, he leads you into places that you would never expect to go and into relationships you never expect to have. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to continuing, is just the adventure of following Jesus and walking in step with him. So that's something that I'm pumped about. But the last thing I wanted to kind of talk about is just, how do you start a new year strong? Like, so as you are coming into January 1st tomorrow, as of this recording, how do you mentally and spiritually go, okay, new year, this is what I'm thinking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it starts for me with reflecting. I love my end of year rhythm is to always read my journals that I've had for
Yep.
the last several years, and so that's always really helped me just remember that what the Lord's done, He'll do again, or like spending your life with the Lord, like He always gets better and better. So I think it like builds my anticipation for 2025 and for the new year, and so that's my plan for tomorrow because we have the day off because it's New Year's Day. And so I'm just going to go through some old journals. And usually now I've read them so many times, I have them marked. So I know like what the key ones are that like are super encouraging, or I'm like, wow, you really answered that prayer. That's
Yeah.
crazy. But I think for me this year, I'm going in with less New Year's resolutions, which might be a hot take, but that's how I'm planning for 2025, is to just do things that I can actually implement into my life. And so I have a growth plan that I love. And so I have some goals that I want to work on in the first couple months and just get those incorporated into a healthy rhythm. And then we'll go from there. But I think a lot of how I prepare is to reflect and to build my anticipation that, like, oh, this is going to be so exciting. Like, life has been so sweet up to this point, even though it has challenges. Like, I've grown through them and I've survived them, and I'm on the other side of them. So excited for that. And yeah, just to spend some time tomorrow reflecting on everything. So
Cool. I love that. I know for me, part of the way that I start a new year is the way I end the prior year. And so habit of year-end reflection has kind of been the number one habit for starting a new year, and is to kind of have that perspective and that clarity. And so as I kind of pivot from looking back to going forward, it gives me a lot more purpose and clarity, and I can see, what God has been doing, and it builds my trust for him, and um, helps me hear him even more. And so that's part of it for me too. I always do something to set intentions and to dream and to recenter and to focus, whether it's goals or New Year's resolutions. It's just something where I put some stuff on paper that I'm feeling this is the direction that I feel God is leading me. And so that's usually written in my notebook, but also I like to take the main things and make them into notes and then pin them in my notes. So I have some goals that are pinned in the notes, and I have the lessons that I learned that I pin in the notes so I can review those things. But just something, and this is what I've been doing again, is kind of looking forward and going, okay, the word of the year, some of those things that just help me go, okay, as I step into this year, I want to step in with intentionality. And so I don't necessarily know where I'm going to go and exactly what I'm going to do. And I don't really set numerical goals on how many of this I get or whatever. I more so like to think of who the person I am today and who I'm trying to become, who I feel like God is calling me to become. And then what do I need to do to be that person, and how can I take steps into that? So that's a little bit. And I'm also a leery person of like New Year's resolutions. I think it says lose in it on purpose because I feel like most people lose when it comes to their resolutions. And so I don't have any beef with them necessarily, but for me, it's just never really worked when I go, all right, because it's January 1st, I'm going to, do this or this. I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week. I fall flat on my face more often. So I've had to rethink of like, what habits do I want to form? What rhythms do I need to implement into my life so that I become the type of person that wants to go to the gym 5 times a week, and that it's not just like I check the box off. It's like, no, the person I am now is somebody who enjoys that, who looks forward to that. And so that's a little bit more of how I've been thinking about it. And then the other thing with that is, who am I surrounding myself with? because the people that we surround ourselves with will often dictate where we go. And so that's something I just encourage people to do, is not only think what are you going to do and where you're going to go, but who is by your side, because that's going to probably dictate more than the goals or resolutions that you set. Is that if you have people in your life that love Jesus, you're going to become more like Jesus. If you have people in your life that are super ambitious and are just dominating goals, and you're probably going to do some of that stuff, but you just have to make sure that where you want to go, where you feel God's leading you, the people that are in your life are equipped to bring you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So good. So good. Well, we've spent time reflecting on just our 2024, but we encourage you, as you're listening to this as well, to just stop and think about what books have been impactful this year, what podcasts have you listened to, what are you proud of, challenges, lessons that you've learned, and just spend some time giving God praise and thanking him, but also just reflecting on all the growth that has happened this past year and what you are planning for the next year. And so we really think preparation is key, just spending some time thinking through what you want and being proactive for the next year. It's going to be a great year and we're excited for it. And we can't wait for all that God is going to do in our lives and in yours. And so, yeah, we'd love to hear all of your answers for any of these. We'll send some polls on Instagram for your books and your podcasts and what things that you're proud of for this year. We're excited to hear them.
Absolutely. We're pumped to continue the podcast into the new year. So make sure you stay tuned. We're going to have more episodes coming out soon. I know Megan just mentioned her growth plan, and I know that's something that we get asked about sometimes. So we're going to do an episode about what that means and what that looks like for us. And then we've got some interviews that we're going to be bringing to you as well. So we're super excited to reintroduce the interviews to the podcast, and we've got some awesome young adults that are going to jump on with us, as well as some people that can teach us a few different things. So be looking out for new episodes coming out in the new year. But we love you. We appreciate you listening, and we'll see you real soon.